Ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? This is Ben from Benzochess here with another lesson. Today we're doing Tic Tac Trap, the lesson about trapping your opponent's pieces. And we're going to do a total of 9 problems today. And I'm going to show you a lot of examples how to trap the opponent's uh, queen, maybe their rook, even their knights. There's a lot of different traps out there, so they're all pretty awesome, okay? So we're going to learn about traps, and the first 3 to 4 positions are going to be basically about openings, and then we're going to get to some real awesome problems. So let's start off. This first one is going to be, we're playing as white here, and we're playing against the modern defense. Okay, so the main goal in the opening, is get pieces out, control the center like white's doing already right here. And we're developing towards the center. Black is not really controlling the center. That's why we put 2 pawns here, as you already know. These are just reminders. And look at this. We got total control of the center. And a lot of times when you're really grabbing the center and doing good development, you'll get some crazy good games, especially sometimes crazy tactics right away in the opening. So here in the modern defense, this knight to d7 is not the correct move because it leads to other tactics, and probably I'm not much of a modern guy, but I know I from giving out this position many times to my opponents, I've seen this tactics many times. It leads to a trap or a fork. Tactics are about crazy moves. You have to calculate everything through. So what's interesting is we got this check here. We're attacking the king. We sacrifice our bishop. So if the king just moves over here, well, we just want a pawn. Well, most likely they're going to take. Then our next goal is to attack the king again. And if he goes here, we say forkulicious. If he goes here, we trap the queen. And if he does not go backwards, he's going to get checkmated pretty quickly. So going over all of this, I'm going to show you. It's bishop sacrifice. So a lot of times your opponents will take the pieces when you're sacrificing unless they calculate and they get too scared. So king will take back, and then knight will come in and check. And the following moves to finish it off, king will come back here to protect himself, and then we are trapping this mouse. We are now trapping the queen. The queen is actually trapped by the knight. Well, it's not trapped by knight, it's trapped by its own pieces. And then we get the nice attack on the queen, which the queen can't do nothing about it. We can't even take the knight away. And funny thing is, I actually got checkmated similar like this when I first started because of bad opening play. But yeah, this is how you can trap a queen in the opening against the modern if you played exactly like this. If the king would have just came here instead, well, you just play the same move, and you could say forkulicious, okay? And if the king will come here instead, that's another question that other students have asked me before. Well, it can't come here because of the knight, okay? And if it came up, well, the bishop is protecting the knight, so you just bring the queen here and give this nice check and mate if the king comes here. Because if the queen gives a check, he can't go backwards because he's still in check. He can't block it. He can't go to any other squares because it's either covered by the knight or the pawn. So I'm just giving you all these arrows, and hopefully you've seen all of them. Okay, so that's problem number 1 of a trap, so you can get an idea. You can trap opponent's pieces. It's kind of like checkmate. It's pretty awesome. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 here, this is what game? The Carol Khan. So this is for the black pieces. After E4, turn down the volume. C6, D4, D5, E5, Bishop F5. It's going good so far. Everyone's developing correctly. The whole opening's played correctly here so far. It's pretty good. And then after that play, knight to D2, still good, still good. Everything's going okay. That's about to be a pawn break. It looks like the French defense. And then white gets a little aggressive. I thought, oh, not yet. Okay, white protects first. Oh, next move's gonna be aggressive. Okay, knight goes there, and then this queen gets aggressive. This queen's a little aggressive because it's giving the check to the king, as you can see. And it's actually forking the king and trying to win that pawn. And also try to win this pawn. So it's actually attacking 3 pieces, the king and the 2 pawns. So the correct way to defend is queen to d7. Now, it's probably best for the white side to capture the queen and just do a trade. But sometimes your opponent might pawn gobble. They'll gobble up pawns. And sometimes it's just a poison pawn. They just accidentally gobbled up, like this one. This pawn that white just basically won. They're probably in their minds. They're probably like, yeah, what a pawn. Party, right? And, well, sometimes pawns can be pretty poisonous. And that one is probably the poisonous that I've seen ever. So what happens here is, now knight goes to f5 because we got a little peekaboo thing with the queen here against the bishop. You know, bishop is attacking the queen and actually attacks these outer squares too. So now the knight can either come here, or what the knight is going to do is jump to f5, which is a really good move. Is covering this center too. So now the queen's under attack this way, and can't go to these squares, and can't go to this square. So has to somehow get to this square and escape. But there's no real safe way. There's no real safe way to do that. So the queen will go to a5 here, and then the queen will hope to push and escape. So the queen will hope to push and escape, but it's not over yet. As you can see, we almost have everything covered up. So here, the way to trap the queen here is to play b6. And b6 actually now attacks the queen. If you look at it, the knight covers here and here, the queen covers here, this bishop covers here. So the queen does not have any good squares. Anywhere it goes to, you know, it's supposed to wants to come here, wants to come here, wants to come these 2 squares, it can't. It wants to come here, but it's blocked by its own, and it wants to come here or here. But it's all covered, so that means it's actually trapped. Erasing the arrows. Okay, so now the queen's trapped, and the queen has to capture the biggest piece for a desperado, and the biggest piece is a pawn. So should have went after the bishop the last move. Okay, so we're going to go to the third problem. Okay, this is problem number 3, and this is one of my favorite traps. It's the Queen's Gambit, and it's a pretty good trap. You actually win material. And there's another line to this that actually gave me trouble, but with some research, you can win against it. So let's go over this. It's pretty simple. It will be d4, d5, c4, d takes c4, e3, attacking with the bishop, as you can see right here. It's like, you know, attacking the pawn. That's why I play e3, but also e3 leads to a possible trap. Then b5 is played, and to counter b5, so you can have a chance to getting that c4 pawn again, is to play a4, attacking b5. Now they cannot play a6, because with a6, they're playing a6, you can just take and then maybe win that rook. So most players will play c6, and I play this a handful of times, and I'm very successful with it. Only time we would lose if I lost in time in blitz. And over the board in long time controls, game of 90 when I played this, the worst I got was a draw. That's my worst result, and that's when I was like a 800 or 900 rated player against a 1600. So, okay. So they got our pawn, and they're saying party, right? They're excited. And now they're winning a pawn, and they're just trying to hold on to that pawn so they can start, keep on throwing confetti everywhere and just keep on the party. But you keep on putting pressure with this pawn. They brought this pawn. That's a problem because now you can take, and we'll see the trap. Takes, and now my favorite move is queen to f3, where it's hitting the rook, and the rook is trapped. So one of the ways your opponents can do to get out of a trap or losing their big piece is by doing a desperado move to give up a smaller piece in exchange to keeping that bigger piece alive, which happens often, but then sometimes they can't do that, so they have to take a piece, the biggest piece possible, with their biggest piece. Just like the previous position, the queen could have took the bishop on one move, but try to save itself and ends up can only take a pawn. So, but in this position, two things can happen. And the best thing black can do right now is play knight to c6. And it looks like it's going to be a forky-licious once I take here. And you know what? It ends up being a forky-licious with queen attacking the king and rook. But white can just simply defend by bishop blocking the check and connecting the queen and rook. And all you have to do is bring the queen back, and you're safe from losing your queen, but you got a knight out of it. So you got a knight for a pawn. It's not too bad. Eventually you'll win these two pawns again and just run your opponents over. Other things I have seen that's silly is instead of knight coming here, I have seen others doing bishop here. My queen will take the bishop, they'll pull their knight to connect, but then I get the pawn back, so they actually lose a full piece right away. And then they do other things silly, like queen comes here, which is really not a threat because they're trying to trap your queen. Once you take here, they're going to try to trap with their bishop. And you can just either take the pawn with your queen, or you can even bring the rook in to pin the bishop, which I have done both, and they're both fun. And those are also easy ones. So, but most likely knight c6 would be played, and you just have to play good chess after that, and it should be just easy because you're up. Okay. Okay, so this is problem number 4. So here we can see that this queen is very active. It's very centralized. But if we look at sometimes when you analyze the chessboard, you gotta look at all the pieces, see how they all move. How does this knight move? How does this bishop move? See if they got any cool tradings or checks, any forcing moves to lead to a tactic. And if they got nothing, then you look for yourself. But we look at this queen, and we can see that the queen's not safe here. It's not safe here. It's losing if it takes. it's safe only here for right now, and it's not safe here. So the two safe squares are b7 and also taking this pawn, and where it's standing as of the moment. So you have to think of how can I stop both c5 and b7. Well, you try to connect the two. So it's either if you were on this square, but this square gets open then. So how do you do these two squares? Well, this square covers both, and it covers that. So let's move our queen here. Seems pretty good. So we move our queen here, and that is the correct answer. Okay, so from here, going over this again, once we got to queen c8, we are covering all this here this way with a queen, because we cover it all with a queen, and we cover this pawn with a queen. And then we have everything down here covered, because the knight covers this square, and the queen covers the other two squares. So the only thing we have to do on the next move is bring the bishop here. Okay? So our move was we moved the queen to c8 so we can cover everything, and then the threat is bishop to e6. That would trap the queen. So black has to make some desperado move. It might be a knight sacrifice just to get safe, and then a pawn push so you can at least get out and get safe, or at least the queen can get out and get some safety. Hopefully that's the goal, because everything's just covered right now. So knight would have to take, and then it threatens a fork pretty much, which we don't want to get forked. We would take, and then they would push a pawn so they can get their queen to safety. So let's get to the next one. This is number 5, and sip of coffee. Remember to get your water break or coffee break or whatever breaks you need. So here we're trying to win a piece, and we're white, and we want to win this knight. That's the main thing we want to do. But this rook is protecting the knight. So we don't want to just trade, because then we're going to be losing bishop for rook. As we can see that this bishop covers these two squares. And then this bishop, if it runs here, it's going to be covering these two squares. And we can probably do something very similar too. If we can just get this rook off of this d file, we can actually win the knight. So the first move is going to be, I believe it's bishop to f6. Yeah, bishop to f6. Because first thing we're trying to do is we're just moving out of one threat and making it to a fork. We're going to see what this rook does. If the rook moves away, thank you, we take the knight. But if the rook stays and tries to protect, he knows he can't go here because the pawn, can't go here because of the bishop. And now we just play bishop e7, and we're guarding these two squares. And we're attacking this square with our bishop. This is covered by the pawn. This is covered by our bishop, which is pretty good. And then this is covered by our bishop too. So bishops are hitting pretty much everything except the square, which is by the pawn, and now the rook is trapped. And then on the next move, you get the rook. Or actually, the next move you could get the rook, or you can get the knight. So most likely if the knight moves here, you would probably gobble that knight up quickly. Okay, this is problem number 6 here for the idea of the trap. Okay, so here there was an opening that came from, looks like the French Defense Exchange, and The bishop came here, and then the knight came here, which was just a huge mistake. So here, if you challenge yourself and try to figure out what this move is, a lot of people will think, well, can I just take the pawn? Well, yeah, you could, but are you trying to trap a piece, or are you trying to win a pawn? And actually, you don't win a pawn because the knight takes back and black has nothing to worry about. But here, if you push the pawn, you're actually blocking the bishop. And he can't come here because of the pawn. He can't come here because of the bishop. He can't come here because of these two pawns. And sacrificing silly because the rook just takes back, and then the rook's active. So actually pushing the pawn here would trap the bishop. Here it's also, this should be a simple trap. Should be a simple one to see. Just way of how you see everything here, and the bishop covers here. And then the hint is you're covering this pawn by this rook. And there's this bishop here. You should be able to see that the simple trap answer is just pushing the pawn, you trap the bishop. Okay, so that would be number 7. Number 8 here is, this one's kind of a little bit difficult to see. This is very difficult to see, but you have to just have very good vision here. So you got to see that this queen is very aggressive, a little bit too aggressive, and it might be trapped. If we look at it, this queen has access all the way over here and here. So we need to somehow block that escape route. It can't go here because of the rook. It can't go here because of the other rook. It can't go here because of the pawn. And then it can't go here because of the bishop. It can't go here because of this pawn. Can't go here because of the king, and can't go these two. So its main free place is here. So we got to somehow attack the queen and block it from coming over here. And the best answer is rook to d2, and the reason for rook to d2 is because this bishop is protecting rook, and the rook is then guarding the whole second rank. So now the queen's only hope of for escaping is gone. It's lost, and thanks to the bishop protecting our rook, it is trapped. Okay, this is problem number 9. This should be very simple. This should be one of the first ones, but it's just simple to make, ending the whole lesson kind of like, simple, just end it with a bang. It's pretty good. Okay, it's white to move, and you're in check. The knight checks you, the horsey, the pony is checking you. How do you get out of check? Oh yeah, and this is Tic Tac Trap. So how do you trap piece 2? 3, 2, 1. Okay. The answer is king to g7. You're trapping the rook. And then you get the rook on the next move. Simple. Get it, got it, good. Okay. So I hope you enjoy this. And then your challenge is the Tic Tac Tac quiz number 1. I would try, if I was you, to do the interaction quiz first before the video to see if you can solve them all. And if you can't, if you struggle, definitely watch the video. But if you do very well on the first video, or not the first video, first quiz of the interaction of level 2 Tic Tac Trap, go ahead and do level 2, because that will get you ready for the level 2 quiz. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you get 2 thumbs up, and bam, bam, those tactics trapping your opponent's pieces. And I will catch you next time.